My name is Michael Williams, the founder of Pro90D, and in this video and the subsequent videos, I'm going to be answering some important questions for you. And here they are. One of the questions is, how can Pro90D help you to stop worrying about your speech, worrying about stuttering or stammering or block? How can we help you overcome that fear, not of public speaking necessarily, but of stuttering? How can we help you to stop either anticipating words, letters, or sounds, or entire speaking situations? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Let's talk about some of the other questions we'll address in subsequent videos. A second question we're going to answer is, how can we help you to stop blocking, speaking in a choppy manner, pushing out words, repeating words, repetitions? In other words, how can we help you to stop stuttering or stammering? So that's another question that we're going to answer. And then a final question that we'll answer is, how can Pro90D help you to stop going blank or losing your train of thinking, especially when you're under pressure? So how can we help you to stop going blank and to start clearly articulating your thoughts? That is, saying what you want, when you want, especially under pressure. So we're going to answer those three questions and probably more. So let's get started with this first question. How can we help you? How can Pro90D help you? And specifically the coaching, but how can Pro90D help you to stop worrying about stuttering? First, let's kind of explain and clarify. You already know, but let's just explain and clarify what we're talking about when we say worrying about or being fearful of or anticipating. So you have probably had experiences where you have a speaking experience coming up, and it could range anything from a meeting where you need to do an update. I can recall back when I was working for someone else full time, and we had meetings, and it was a training, and I knew they were going to go around the table and say, okay, let's have everyone introduce themselves. Oh boy, I used to get a little anxious about that. Many years ago, I would get more anxious about it. Then, even as I became an excellent speaker, I'd still get a little anxious, not so much about introducing myself, but more so about having to read, because what they would do in the training sessions is they would say, all right, let's have you start here and just read this paragraph or read this part. And then you'd be looking and saying, okay, when they get to me, I'm probably going to have to read this, right? Or I'm going to have to say this. And then sometimes what would happen is they would skip someone, or they would have someone keep reading, and then you'd have to say, okay, so now what am I going to have to read? So then you start getting anxious because you're anticipating that you might get stuck, or you're looking at the words. Or if you know that you get stuck introducing yourself, you're wondering, all right, am I going to be able to get this out clearly? Everyone's going to be looking at me. So how can we help you to stop doing that? Or it could be a phone call, or going through something as simple as going through the drive-thru, ordering food, and if someone else is in the car, or going in to the store and ordering coffee or food or whatever it is. How can we help you to stop thinking negatively, stop being fearful, worrying about that, anticipating the worst? How can Pro90D help you to stop doing that? And there's so many other speaking situations like interviews, presentations, and so forth and so on, that you may be fearful of and worrying about, so much so that people sometimes get a little sick. They start feeling very, very tight in the stomach area or even in the chest area. Sometimes they start sweating. Sometimes they're not able to sleep well or sleep at all the night before. I mean, it really can affect you when you're fearful, when you're anxious about and worrying about your speech constantly. And so what happens is people tend to start avoiding, and as much as they can, they start to avoid certain speaking situations or minimize their exposure, or minimize their speaking exposure, right? And this is no way to live. This is no way to live your life. So how can Pro90D help you do that? Well, let's just look at a few ways that we help you do that. The first thing that we do is through our holistic and science-based system, which we've talked about in other videos. So I hope that you've been able to watch some of our previous videos. But Pro90D is a science-based holistic system. What we do is we help you through something called the Law of Substitution, right? The Law of Substitution. And what this law essentially says is that you can replace or substitute one behavior for another one pattern of thinking, one way of thinking for another one, right? One way of speaking for or with another way of speaking. So what Pro90D does is, through our science-based holistic system, and I'll break this down even more, is we help you clearly define how you want to speak, how you want to think and feel, right? And also the kind of person that you want to see yourself as. So we address not just your speech, your physical speech. Yes, we address your speech, but we also address your mindset, your thinking, and the emotions that go along with that. And we address your beliefs about yourself as a speaker, how you see yourself, who you see yourself to be as a speaker. Do you tend to see yourself as someone who struggles with their speech, or someone who's a confident speaker and can handle any speaking situation, regardless of any disfluencies that may arise? How you see yourself. So what Pro90D does is it helps you replace. So remember this word, that we help you replace your current way of speaking, your current way of thinking, your current way of seeing yourself. Replace it with a new way by giving you the new way. Here's what it looks like. Here's what it feels like. Here's what it sounds like, right? So we help you replace it. Now the next question is, well, Michael, how do you help us replace it? How do you help us replace it? Well, we have a series of audios and videos contained that within those audios and videos, the content of those audios and videos is information and strategies and exercises that help you think differently. So we want to help you replace the content of your thinking, because it all starts with your thinking. So the content of the audios and videos, which is one way that you and I receive information by watching and listening, right? And the exercises and so forth, and we'll talk about that. But we help you and give you a strategy that helps you replace the content of your thinking by watching and listening to these audios and videos. So you're taking in new information that's helping you to think differently. And when you start to think differently, you start to feel differently, and you start to behave differently. Does that make sense? I hope that that's clear. So through the audios and videos, this is just on the surface, when you're watching the audios and videos, you're starting to receive information that's helping you think differently. And so your thinking then affects how you feel, which also affects how you behave. Well, what else do we do? Well, let's go into the audios and videos, because there are certain exercises that we give you, right? Certain techniques, if you will, strategies and techniques and tactics, like affirmations, visualization, verbalization, modeling. We'll talk about that a little bit. And by doing these exercises, so not just by watching and listening, well, that's great, you need to do that, but also by practicing the exercise. So one thing that has to happen is there's the watching, right, and the listening. So we're talking about how, but then there's also the practicing. The practicing, we give you exactly what to practice. We even give you some times, okay, you should practice this for about this long. It's the practicing that is also literally, physically changing the neurology of your brain. It's helping you create new neural networks or rearrange or strengthen current neural networks. It's a law called Hebb's law. Simply it says neurons that fire together, wire together. And so the more you repeat a specific behavior or thinking pattern, the neurons or the neurological patterns or the network that represents that behavior or that thought pattern begin to communicate with each other. And the more they communicate with each other, they start to develop a closer and tighter relationship. The communication begins to flow faster, begins to flow easier, right? The communication between those neurons. And as that happens, you and I experience a new pattern of thinking or a new pattern of behavior. And that pattern eventually reaches something that we call automaticity, where it becomes automatic. And that's simply a representation of that neural network in the different areas of your brain that have developed a tight, close communication. They're now communicating. The information is flowing. The signals are flowing easily and quickly between those neurons. You and I experience that as automaticity. Wow, you're doing this and we're not thinking about it. It's coming naturally. We're doing this easily. Okay? So Pro90D understands that. And so through the watching and the listening, that's only one part, but also through the practicing, you're building and or strengthening these new neural networks, and therefore you're replacing your current way of speaking, your current way of thinking, current way of seeing yourself with something brand new. So we're not really focusing on stopping. How do I stop worrying, stop being fearful? How do I stop speaking this way? How do I stop doing? What we're really focusing on is, what do I need to replace this with? Okay, now that I know what I need, what behavior, what thinking pattern I need to replace this with, now all I have to do is repeat it. I need to practice it all the time in every different situation. Pro90D helps you do that. So, what else does Pro90D do in terms of helping you, for example, specifically, to stop worrying about or stop anticipating? Well, inside of the watching and listening and the practicing, there's content and exercises that are specifically designed for you, because I've been doing this for decades now, right? Struggled with it myself, put a lot of research, I've worked with a lot of people, right? And so there's content and exercises that are specifically designed to help you change your way of thinking about your speaking situations. So instead of worrying, you actually start positively anticipating. You start looking forward to it. Instead of staying in your own head and feeling very self-judgmental, right? Feeling like, oh, I hope this person doesn't see me this way. If I get stuck, what are they going to think of me? This is my boss. I need to perform well. Instead of thinking that way or thinking, oh, they're going to go around and ask for our names, and more than likely I'm going to. Well, that's a thinking pattern. What Pro90D does is, inside the content and inside the exercises, we actually help you replace that way of thinking with positive anticipation. You actually start to look forward to it, or you don't think about it at all. You look forward to it, or you don't think about it. You prepare for it in a positive way. You shift your focus from yourself to your audience or to the people that you're talking to or with. You shift your focus from, how am I going to perform, to, man, how can I use this experience to help people? You stop staying in your own head and you start becoming more present and just being there, absorbing, taking in the experience, listening to other people, just being present, and start being more relaxed and calm. Does that make sense? So inside of Pro90D, inside the audios and the videos, inside the practice exercises, is everything that you need to help you replace that old way of thinking, old way of feeling, old way of seeing yourself, old way of speaking, with a new way that helps you be more relaxed, that helps you be more present, that helps you shift your focus, that helps you actually look forward to. Instead of worrying about, you look forward to it. Now, you probably heard me say just a few minutes ago, you go from worrying about, negatively anticipating, to looking forward to, positively anticipating, or not thinking about it at all. So therefore, when you're going to get coffee, you're going to order, you have a meeting, you either are preparing for it in a positive way, looking for, Or you're just, if it's not that big of a deal, you're just not even thinking about it. You just walk to the counter, yeah, let me get this. Or go through the drive-thru, yes, hi, I'll take this. I'll take a caramel macchiato or whatever, macchiato, right? Whatever it is you're ordering. Yeah, let me have a Big Mac. Well, let me just go ahead and get your number 2. Okay. You're talking to somebody, yes, great to meet you. So where are you from? And what do? You just don't think about it anymore, okay? And when you do need to think about it, it's in a very, very positive, constructive, preparatory mode, right? Where you're preparing for it. You're like, man, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. So I want you to just think about that when you join Pro 90D, and more specifically, when you work with me one-on-one, and we'll briefly talk about why that's more powerful than working on your own. But for sure, if you're not doing anything, do the self-study, right? The information is there. But why would you want to work with me? Well, you want to work with me so that you can accelerate the process. Right? You can accelerate the process. When you work with someone who's an expert guide at whatever it is that you're trying to do, you're going to save time, you're going to save energy, and you're going to save money. If you've been avoiding opportunities, therefore you're probably earning less than what you could. You might not be doing exactly what you want to do, what you could be doing. And when you accelerate the process, you bring closer to yourself all the things that you've always wanted to do. So instead of it being out there, way out there someplace where you may never really get to do that, no, it comes closer, and now it's months away, right? It's just months away instead of just way out there. So the jobs you want, the income you want, the social life you want comes much, much closer to you. You attract it, you pull it into you by working on your speech, by transforming your speech. What coaching does is accelerates that process. It accelerates the time in which you can get to your goals and your dreams. It pulls it in faster, pulls it in closer, and pulls it in faster. We call this the law of accelerating acceleration. Okay, so through the law of substitution and through working with me one-on-one, you're able to get the customized, personalized, optimized feedback that you need to save you months and years. You're able to get encouraged so that you don't give up and quit when you feel like it, or that you don't get lazy, which you can still get lazy, but at least when you paid for coaching, you're a little less likely to just give up and quit or get so lazy that you're not doing the things you need to do. You're also able to get that feedback that says, hey, don't pick and choose the parts of the program you want. It's important to do all of it. It's important to do this especially, and then I can explain why. I mean, I do this all the time. Here's why you really need to be doing this. You also get that customized feedback that says, okay, now I want you, based on your speech and your speaking situation, to focus on this. And then maybe a week or two later, or 3 weeks, great, you've got that. Now let's focus on this. Okay, that can save you months and years accelerating the process to smooth speech, accelerating your progress and your journey to smooth speech. So I hope that that makes sense. So I hope that I've clearly explained how Pro 90D, and specifically working with me one-on-one, can help you to stop worrying, to stop being fearful, to stop negatively anticipating words or letters or speaking situations. We do it through the law of substitution by replacing what you're currently doing with something new and better, number one. And the way that we do that is through the content in the course, the watching and the listening, and number two, the practicing of the exercises in the program. And then if I can add just one more, we accelerate all of this with coaching. Okay, we accelerate all of it with coaching. A lot of times people are working on their own and they reach a plateau. They actually get benefits, but then they stop doing what they need to do and they slide back a little bit, or they have lots of dips. The coaching helps you smooth out those dips and helps you reach higher and higher plateaus, higher and higher levels, faster and faster. Okay, so this is how we do it. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.
Here are 3 reasons to work with Michael. Get accountable so you can stay on track. Get encouraged so you don't quit. And get personalized feedback so you don't waste time. Don't wait. Get started right now. You can save over $500, but you must act now. When you work with Michael, you'll be pleasantly surprised at how quickly your speech and entire life transforms.